I wanted to chat to you today about curating your bookshelves and about the books that got away. So I know a lot of us on BookTube are very into collecting books and gathering books, and we could be described probably as hoarders of books. And I definitely have fallen into that category at different times in my life. At this stage, I live on the west coast of Canada. A lot of my earlier collection of books are at home with my family, my parents, and my mother has slowly sent them out to me over the years, and I'm whittling those down. I don't have as many books back home as I used to. I've really enjoyed watching Sean the Book Maniac's Somewhere in a Box in Canada books, where he was home visiting his parents and he was going through these boxes of books in his collection that he has not yet had sent to him in Japan where he lives. And I certainly don't have that many, and that's a really conscious decision on my part. When I was in my last year of university, I was living alone in a small apartment, but I was amazed when it was time to move out of that apartment how much I had accumulated in terms of stuff that I've shoved into closets and kept. And I kind of resolved myself after that experience of clearing that all out by myself, carrying boxes of things to Goodwill, and just being completely overwhelmed by the amount of things that I had collected over the years, that I needed to be less of a things person. So one of the ways that I've been able to read as much as I have and enjoy an abundance of books is through using the library. And obviously right now, because of the social distancing measures that are in place, I haven't really been able to get to the library as much as I usually do. And that has been making me rather sad and just miss being around an abundant selection of books. So I have been purchasing more books, but I am being very, very conscious of the books that I'm adding to my collection. I have one large bookshelf and a couple other smaller ones that I use. And I want to be sure that if I'm keeping a book, it's because I really love it. I either have a sentimental attachment to it, or I just really love the author, or it's an area of subject matter that I want to be a collector in. So that's kind of how I've decided to curate my shelves. And one of the ways that I've started to do this is actually through giving away some books that I absolutely loved and regret giving away. So I'm wondering if any of you have had this experience that you've lent someone a book or given it away because you read it and enjoyed it, but you thought, oh, that's okay, I'm probably not going to read it again and I want more space for new books, and then regretted giving it away. So that has happened to me a few times. One of the books that happened with was this one, Crossing to Avalon by Shinoda Bolen. I read this many years ago. I really loved it, and I wanted to gift it to a friend of mine. And so I sent it to her. And so I kind of thought, oh, I wish I could read that book again, because there was a particular passage in here where this is a memoir of a midlife memoir by Shinoda Bolen, and she's talking about kind of a spiritual awakening and how different moments in her life really awakened her. And one of those moments is the death of her mother, and it's described so beautifully in the passage in this book, and it's stayed with me since then. It hasn't gone away. And so when I saw this book in a secondhand store years later, after sending it away to my friend never to get it back, I bought it again. And so now I have it, and I will reread it someday. And it taught me an important lesson about, when I do have a sentimental connection to books, how important it is to keep those books, because you just never know if you're going to find one again and when you're going to want to reread it as well. So I have a few other books that I have given away for other people to read and regretted. So one of them is Prodigal Summer by Barbara Kingsolver. I really loved that book, and now that I've read The Lacuna by Barbara Kingsolver, I definitely think that I want to reread Prodigal Summer again someday. And so I will also be on the lookout for another copy of that book in the future. Another book that I lent to someone with the idea that I thought I was going to get it back and then not got it back was Roots by Alex Haley. And that book, again, is just this epic story that I think I will eventually want to reread. And so I will be on the lookout for a copy of that in the future as well. A category of books that I want to particularly start to collect, and I do not have a lot of in my collection, is biographies of female artists. So they can be memoir or autobiography, or they can be biographies. One of the ones that I've read that has stayed with me is Joan Mitchell, Lady Painter. And I forgot to write down the author, but I'll put her name below. This is just a beautiful hardcover book. The cover is still in my mind as well. It was so beautifully designed, and I actually borrowed this from the library and read it. So that for me is a great way to kind of vet books, read them. If I love it, then I will get my own copy eventually. So that is another one book I'd like to add to my collection. I've also been trying to add in some more obscure biographies. So this is called No Man's Land, The Life and Art of Mary Riter Hamilton by Katherine A. Young and Sarah M. McKinnon. And this is about a Canadian female war artist in World War I. And so this one, this is there aren't a lot of biographies written about female artists, especially Canadian female artists, because it's just not an area that people dig into when they're doing a lot of research. And so this is an area that I really want to start to build my collection and keep them, because they are a place where I can reference later on, and they are important inspirational pieces on the journey. So another one in my collection, which I actually put on my top 10 booktube top 10 tag that I did last year, is Through the Flower, My Struggle as a Woman Artist by Judy Chicago. So Judy Chicago, a very famous feminist artist who paved the way in so many ways for female artists to get where they are today. And she, I read this at a very important pivotal moment in my life on the way to New York years and years ago, and I have a very, very specific memory of reading this on the bus on the way to New York to look at art on an art trip with my my art class. And so this book is so sentimental to me, and I will really want to reread it. When I purchased this one, this is actually a secondhand copy because I believe it is out of print. I also purchased her follow-up to that called Beyond the Flower, which is the autobiography of a feminist artist by Judy Chicago. So, having these two as reference, I will obviously buy more books by her. She's just very instrumental in kind of formulating my own identity as an artist. And so these types of books are going to be really important for me going forward and adding to my collection. Another book that I read years ago and I had a secondhand copy of is Louise Nevelson, A Passionate Life by Laurie, Lisle. And I was thinking about getting another copy of it as well, because I gave it away and thinking, oh, well, I've read it. I know about Louise Nevelson. I won't reread it. But now I do want to reread it. And so I will be on the lookout for that. But there has been another biography written of her, and my library does have it. And so I'm going to read that one and then decide between the two and pick which one I think is more extensive, or I just appeals to me more to keep in my collection. But two other categories of books that I have decided I'd like to collect, and I just did a little book order from Book Outlet to get these two books. Now, they're not the same editions, and I think I wanted to check out these two. So this is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and this is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Now this is the edition that I actually prefer. I prefer the artwork on this cover. I also prefer the type. set. So I just think that I would really like to get The Secret Garden in this edition, because this edition here, they made the typeset so tiny. And I just don't enjoy the feel of this book either. Of course, when you're ordering books online, you don't really know this in advance. But now that I know that I like this little edition, I'm going to be on the lookout for The Secret Garden in this edition. And then if there's other classics that I want to own a copy of, I will try to get them in this edition as well. So this is something new that BookTube has really brought to me. I didn't really pay much attention to book reprints and special editions of things before starting BookTube, and there's a few different booktubers that really seem to gravitate towards collecting all of one sort of imprint or edition of a book. And so this is the Puffin Classics edition. But again, this is kind of something new that I'm learning about. So if you're an expert in finding specific editions of types of collections of books by certain authors, or in certain reprintings where they're printing, a certain type of book at the same time, please let me know, because I'm interested in this. And I'm interested if there's an easier way to find out this information. So if you have advice on how to collect these, what the best method is to collect these, I would really love to know. And I did get these on Book Outlet, so they were all very affordable. I think that they were probably $5. So I don't feel bad that I purchased this and it's not exactly what I want. I'll certainly keep this until I can find this edition. Or I could even gift this to, one of my nieces in the future or someone else. So I never feel like purchasing these is a waste of time in any way. So the last category I wanted to talk to you about is my newfound kind of obsession with the Bloomsbury group. And they were a group of writers in the early 20th century, based out of England. So you've got Virginia Woolf and E.M. Forster and a whole bunch of others, Linton Strachey. And I purchased this book years ago, a really long time ago, because this has Dora Carrington's painting of Linton Strachey on the cover. And this is Linton Strachey's Eminent Victorians. I actually read the section on Florence Nightingale in this book for Victober last year. And so as I've been progressing, in the last 2 years, I've been working on an art piece that is centered around a quote that I pulled from A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. And that has kind of sparked this more of an obsession with Bloomsbury than I had before. I also read Vanessa and Her Sister by Priya Parmar 2 years ago, and that book has really stayed with me. I really enjoyed it. It was a fictional retelling of their lives, of Vanessa Bell and Virginia Woolf, and their relationships and their lives in the Bloomsbury group, and I just rather adored that book. And so I wanted to indulge this interest and kind of delve further, especially since I'm making an art piece about it. It just goes along well. It kind of fills my nature of collecting and researching and helps that part of me that loves to do that and that misses doing that, frankly, since being out of university. And I've been out of university for many years now. When I'm able to search out these things and follow up with them, I just am so enthralled. And so I was able to get a few other books from Book Outlet around this topic. So for Virginia Woolf, I got The World Broke in Two by Bill Goldstein. And this is Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, D.H. Lawrence, E.M. Forster, and the Year That Changed Literature. And so this is about 1922, which was a pivotal year in literary history, and it weaves together these four authors and what they were doing in that year that really impacted Western British literature. So really interested in reading this one. And I also picked up All the Lives We Ever Lived Seeking Solace in Virginia Woolf by Katherine Smyth or Smyth. So this is also a memoir, and I think Katherine Smyth had, she loves To Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, and it was a book that she loved along with her father, and her father died, and it's kind of her journey through grief and through her interpretation of To the Lighthouse. And also got Vanessa Bell, Portrait of the Bloomsbury Artist by Frances Spalding. So this is a biography of Vanessa Bell. And, you know, I think that no matter how many times I read about this, I'm just going to really enhance my knowledge. I'm just interested in becoming kind of a minor, you know, expert. Is that possible to be a minor expert? I don't know. But just to, you know, explore Bloomsbury from as many angles as I can while it's interesting me. So this will be something that I read in the next little while. So I'm interested to know, you know, if you curate your shelves. I know I've heard several people say, Brian from Bookish has said this, I can't remember who else, who say that even if they don't like a book, they keep it. I think maybe Sean the Book Maniac has also said that. And I find that sentiment really interesting, and I definitely don't feel that way. I feel like the electronic records that I keep of my reading through Goodreads or on my library read list are sufficient enough for me to recall a book, especially if I didn't like it. I certainly am not interested in keeping around books that I detest in any way. And even if I just think it's okay, I just don't want to keep it on my shelves. I really want my shelves to be a place that I look and see books that I really, really love, or books that I feel sentimental about. And it's possible that a book you feel sentimental about is a book that you didn't enjoy reading. Very curious to hear any of your thoughts on curating your shelves, and I am going to continue to curate my shelves and reevaluate that curation frequently, because especially when I can't go to the library and be surrounded by books, this is a way for me to really immerse myself in my books and feel that love for them. Let me know if there's any books that got away in your life that you wish you hadn't lent or given to someone and that you're looking for other copies of. And I will be back again soon with another bookish video. Thanks for watching.